On behalf of I3 Support Facility, I would like to warmly welcome you to our 14th virtual event. Today's session focuses on the I3 project mandatory deliverables. For those who are here for the first time, our virtual event is part of the monthly I3 Support Facility virtual event series aimed at current and hopefully future I3 beneficiaries. Our next session will take place next week and will be a matchmaking event dedicated to finding your regional match. We strongly encourage you to join, and later in the presentation, you will see a QR code that would lead you directly to the registration page. Before we begin, we would also like to briefly introduce you to our I3 Support Facility new website. My colleagues will share the link in the chat, so you can also check it out when you want. On the website, you can find all the materials from our previous virtual events, as well as information about our other activities, events, discussion and policy groups, news, and updates. Yes, I see that the link has been shared. Now, I will not wait any longer, and I am pleased to have Valentina Pina, Project Advisor at ISMEA, joining us today, who will guide you through the topic of mandatory deliverables within I3. Thank you so much. Valentina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justina. I will soon share the screen. Just a brief introduction from my side. I'm Valentina Pinna. I'm Project Advisor at ISMEA. And today I will try to present you the mandatory deliverables that are associated to I3 projects. First of all, you probably know that for the ongoing projects that you are asked to deliver an annual report on cumulative expenditure. This is something that is needed for monitoring the correct implementation of the project, the budget absorption, and to detect early, eventually, if there is a low budget absorption. In addition to that, you might have noticed that at the end, in the call text, you have several mandatory deliverables that I will try to explain today. I will share my screen so you can see the presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see the presentation, but not in the full screen, Valentina.
Okay, now it's the full screen.
Yes.
Is the code, the QR code that Justina was mentioning. Wait, I'll try to close this black window that might disturb during the presentation.
No, it's okay. We don't see it. Yes, indeed. Okay. So this is the registration to our next event.
Okay. Okay, this is the yearly report on cumulative expenditure that I was mentioning before. So basically, there is a template which is available. So no worries, you just have to fill it in, and you are supposed to deliver it in November every year. How to submit it? Basically, you can submit it as a formal deliverable foreseen on the eGrant portal during the grant agreement preparation, or you can, if you have forgotten to insert it as a formal deliverable, you can still send it as an attachment to a message sent to your project advisor via the portal. Because this message receives a registration number, so it is equivalent to a formal submission of the deliverable. Why you have to do that, as I was mentioning before, because we need to monitor the budget absorption at project level, and we need to detect underspending. In addition to that, those are the other mandatory deliverables that are foreseen for the investment calls. We have, according to the call text, 4 mandatory deliverables: annual engagement report, the data management, the financial reporting, and the dissemination strategy. dissemination exploitation strategy. Those need to be annexed to the final report that you prepare at the end of the project. The first deliverable are the business and investment plan that need to be filled in by individual companies, but also in business and investment plans at portfolio level. You might remember that I3 is a program that supports value chain related investments composed by individual investment from companies that are interconnected in the framework of a portfolio. The report, this report is to explain how those investments have been implemented and how this value chain dimension has been fulfilled in the framework of the investment. The other annex is the assessment to the innovation readiness at the end of the project and a list of remaining bottlenecks. Let's start with the annual engagement report with the ERDF authorities. At the beginning of the project, it's important to share information with your ERDF authorities, with the S3 competent bodies. Why? Because they need to know that your project has been funded, that you are starting to work, and that you will provide a contribution to the smart specialization, to the implementation of the smart specialization of the region, and that your project is expected to have a territorial impact. So this is important. So you share information, you explain the relevance of your project for these 3 regional priorities. You show the value chain mapping that you have prepared when you applied, and you also explain the role of regional stakeholders in the project. The fourth thing that you do at the beginning of the project, when you start the dialogue with the managing authorities, also to explore their availability to join a sort of mirror group to follow the project development. So basically, maybe once a year to sit with you and to listen to you and your project partners, what you are doing and the results that you are, the progress that you are doing. The other aspect during the implementation of the project, basically, you need to inform the regional authorities on the project achievement and the challenges that you are facing. You need to present the companies involved in interregional innovation investment portfolio, and also the business investment plan when they are prepared. You present the project results, the impact, the remaining funding needs, and the bottlenecks. But also, the dialogue with managing authorities is useful to explore the possibilities for potential synergies with the ERDF mainstream funding, and also to engage with the managing authorities, so with the S3 authorities, for the dissemination and exploitation activities. And last but not least, it's also important to provide feedback to policy in the final event of the project. So all those informations that I have mentioned should be part of this annual report on the engagement with ERDF authorities and S3 competent bodies. Very easy. There is no template, but you just follow a little bit what I wrote in this slide, and you will have written what you need. The other compulsory element is the data management plan. What is a data management plan? Data management plan is a tool that supports the consortia organizing their data management throughout the project and beyond the project, for the collection of data, processing data, and also the generation of new data. The data management plan is mandatory under I3 project for the data generated or reused by the project. The data management plan has to respect the fair data management principles. The data must be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And a template for collecting the data is available. So no worries about that. If you click here, you will find the template on the slide. When do you have to submit the data management plan? So the data management plan is a living document that need to be updated throughout the project. However, it is foreseen that you have to submit it within 6 months after the beginning of the project. It is a mandatory deliverable that is written in the grant agreement, but that does not mean that once you have submitted it as a formal deliverable, your work is over. The data management plan should be also updated periodically, and in particular at mid-term of project implementation for the project that are longer than 12 months. And a final version has to be provided at the end of the project. It's also recommended to update the data management plan with the periodic reporting, in particular if you have an early assessment meeting or a review meeting with your project advisor. It is important to reflect on the results that your project has already achieved and how you can include the data generated by your deliverables in your data management plan. So the data management plan has to be filled by each partner of the consortium. As I mentioned before, a template is available, and those are, it is the summary of the data that you are supposed to include in this plan. So basically, you should answer all those questions. If you are reusing existing data, why you are reusing them, or if you are not reusing existing data, why you have chosen that not to do that. You have to explain the type and the data formats that your project is generating, the purpose of the data generation, the expected size of the data, the origin of the data, and also the data utility, basically outside of the project. So I mentioned that the data must be findable. So if there is an identifier that can be considered a persistent identifier, you will have to identify to mention it in your plan. You will have to look for rich metadata that your project is generating and trying to use standards. You should search keywords related to your project results and mention them in the data management plan because this is important for a potential reuse. And also, if it is possible, you should index. You should provide an index for metadata. The second aspect of the data management plan is making data openly accessible. You should have a repository where you put all the data. It must be a trusted repository, and you should take appropriate arrangement for keeping those data safe. The other aspect is reflecting if those data are openly available. Certain data set cannot, if certain data set cannot be shared, you need to explain why. and you need to explain the contractual reason for those restrictions. Certain data can be kept closed if opening the data goes against the legitimate interest of some of the partners, but it has to be explained if it was not explained at the proposal stage. The third principle is that the data need to be interoperable. You should identify the vocabularies that are used, the standards, the methodologies, in order to allow data exchange and reuse. You will have to follow interoperability best practices. So try to reflect if interoperability best practice exists and try to use them. Also, you should try to generate project-specific ontologies if you are not following the most common ones. And also, you need to always to make reference to the source of data. The fourth principle is to increase the data reuse, possibly through licenses. You should document. You should reflect on how you will provide the documentation needed to validate the data analysis and to facilitate the reuse. You will have to explain if the data is freely available for the reuse, which are the conditions for licensing the use of your data. The third party that are can reuse those data after the end of the project. The provenance of the data, who is the owner. You know, in certain projects there are background IPR that is shared in the framework of the project. So the owner need to be clearly mentioned. It's not only foreground that you share, it's also background very often. And the quality assurance, the data quality assurance processes. So the data that you share must be certified as quality data. Concerning other outputs, in addition to the management plan, the beneficiary should also consider a plan for the management of other outputs that might be generated or reused throughout the project. The output can be either digital output or physical outputs. For digital output, we mean software, protocols, models, etc. Physical outputs are more new materials, for example, antibodies, samples, prototypes, etc. Beneficiaries should provide sufficient details on how the research outputs will be managed and shared or made available for reuse according to the FAIR principles. The next, the compulsory deliverable is the dissemination and exploitation plan. When we mention dissemination and exploitation plan, we mean a plan for communicating, disseminating project outputs for the exploitation of project results. It includes a communication component, a dissemination component, and a plan for the exploitation of project results. As you see from this picture, there are some overlaps in the three activities. So very often you also, when you go on the portal, you will have to report the communication activities and the dissemination activities. You might report the same event, maybe with the same activity in the two portal session. Why? Because the same event or the same activity can have a dissemination component and the communication component. I will explain a little bit better later. And the same is for the exploitation of the results. the plan for the exploitation results is also benefiting from the communication and dissemination activities. Here is, I put a difference between dissemination and communication, because very often there is a confusion. So the dissemination is the strategic distribution of project results to specific target audience who can use them. The communication is a broader effort to raise awareness about the project to a wider public audience using accessible language. So when we talk about dissemination, we focus on what, the result, on who are the potential users, for example, scientists or industry, etc., and using technical means, which is the how I will disseminate it. This is another aspect. When we talk about communication, we focus on who we are targeting, the general public, the media, etc. Why? Which is the project goal and the significance of the project? Why is the project important? So there is a target message that is tailored to the public, and we will use accessible tools like, for example, social media, press releases, etc. There is a communication, dissemination and communication guidance produced by our agencies. In this case is the REA, and you can make reference to this guidance. Concerning the dissemination, I don't know how to move this window so to make it visible. Okay. Dissemination and communication plan must include the communication activities. So, for example, you put the name of the activity, you write a target, who, how, and why. Who is the target audience? How how I will communicate. So here you can see, for example, different possibilities: print materials, videos, reviews, newsletters, etc. The communication channels that you will use, and what is the expected outcome of your communication activity. And also, do not forget the key performance indicators that you will have to use also as final KPIs to be reported on the eGrant portal. When we talk about communication is the strategic planned process that starts at the outset of the action and continues throughout the project lifetime, and aim at promoting the action and its results. The communication requires strategic and targeted measures for communicating the action and the results to a multitude of audiences. For every communication activity, you need to identify a concrete output that you want to achieve. Here we have a communication toolkit that was prepared by our ISMEA colleagues. So we strongly recommend to use this communication toolkit for your communication activities, and also when you design the communication, dissemination, and exploitation plan. When we talk about the dissemination component of the plan, dissemination is our activities to carried out in the context of the project. And so this can be a little bit the structure that you can use for your dissemination plan, indicating the type of dissemination activity, the target audience. Here you have some potential targets that we have already identified, and you describe the objective with reference to the project outputs. Here is the why. So this can be a little bit of the guidance for you. Concerning the exploitation plan, exploitation is about using project results in developing, creating, marketing, or improving the products, the processes, or the services that you have developed in the framework of the project. Also the knowledge that is useful for shaping a policy that could have a positive impact on the public quality of life, but also on the regions and the territories where you are operating. Don't forget that the dissemination and exploitation plan, it's a legal obligation. It's foreseen by the grant agreement, and it's important for maximizing the project impact. So in the exploitation plan, you have to describe how your project will make concrete use of results for commercial purposes. You will have to identify for whom, for those who can take the results forward or invest in them. The target of your exploitation plan, how you want to exploit the project results, maybe creating roadmaps, sharing knowledge on innovative solutions, sharing the knowledge through innovation diffusion pathways, creating new skills for people, or sharing data. When you have to prepare this exploitation plan, basically at the end of the action, when you are approaching the end of the action, the end of the project, you need to reflect on the exploitable results, and you need to put it down in the exploitation plan, trying to think how you want to exploit the results. And you have to do the exploitation plan as a duration of up to 4 years after the end of the project. It can also be a guidance to monitor the exploitation of your project after the end. And why it's important, exploitation plan? Because a project can lead to new legislation or policy recommendation, can provide benefits for the innovation community, the economy, and the society, and can help to tackle problems or responding to existing market or societal demand. So how can we define the exploitation? The exploitation can be defined as using project results in developing, creating, marketing, of improving products, processes, or services, shaping policies that could have a positive impact on the society. You can also use the free of charge tool Horizon Result Platform, which is the official European Commission platform to promote the results of innovation projects. You can, using Horizon Results Platform, also to promote the projects and the company visibilities, in particular for those companies involved in the business cases, the more successful business cases that have been validated and tested during the projects. You can access to this service for free. You might remember the I3 support facility organized a presentation on Horizon Result Booster and platform, and also on the innovation radar that can also be a useful tool for your project. Here you can download the PDF with instruction for logging and accessing this service. Concerning another deliverable, very important, is the business and investment plan. Those business and investment plan need to be annexed to the final report that you will submit at the end of the project. But what we mean for business and investment plan? So when we talk about business and investment plan, we mean a business and investment plan at company level, but also a report on the implementation of the business and investments belonging to the portfolio. The portfolio is composed by individual business investments and are connected at interregional level and along a specific value chain. So every company can be placed in a segment of the value chain, and you need to explain how those investments are interconnected and how they are providing an added value for the targeted value chain. This is a report. We do not have a template, also because the projects are very different one to another, and we cannot foresee all the different scenarios. This a little bit up to you, but the most important thing is that you explain those interconnections between territories and between segments of the value chains where different actors may play a role. The third aspect is the innovation readiness at the end of the project that can be measured like in terms of technology readiness, market readiness, business and investment readiness. And the last annex is the list of remaining bottlenecks. We will see all those elements in the next slides. When we talk about business and investment plan at company level, you can use, of course, the business model canvas as a guidance. There are several templates available. Feel free to use the one that is more appropriate to your project. This is an example. So here you can see that you will have to indicate the key partners, the key activities of your project, the key resources, the value proposition for your concrete investment, the customer relationships, the customer segments, the channels, the cost structure, and the revenue streams. So if you follow this template, the key information will emerge. The other possibility is to use the innovation radar methodology to design also your business and investment plan. You might find your project, your concrete business case can find a place in this graphic. So you could be in a phase of exploration, or you might be already technology. You can be ready from a technology point of view, but maybe the business readiness is not yet there. But the final goal is to be market ready, ready for the commercialization, ready for the market. And in order to this methodology, Innovation Radar, use the different indicators. One is the innovation potential indicator, and another one is the innovation capacity indicator that are generated answering questions in the framework of a questionnaire that is available. So again, if you follow the methodology, there is a questionnaire, you answer the questionnaire, and you use the elements emerging from the questionnaire for building your business and investment plan. This is a data-driven methodology for identifying high potential innovations, the market readiness, and the disruptive potential of those innovations. It's important because you can identify the maturity level of your innovation, of your investment, and also you can benefit from some intelligence and support for the development and commercialization of your innovation. So here, when innovation readiness is high, you might decide to work also on financial plans as annexes to the business plan, where you can estimate the detailed cost breakdown, the revenue generation model, the legal structure of the company or of the investment project, the investment structure, if there is a private contribution, if you have investors that are partners of your project, if this contribution is in kind, is financial, in terms of financial resources. You can also explain how this private contribution, the weight of these private contributions versus the public support that you're looking for. You can breaking down the investment per participating region. You can provide financial forecasts, project cash flow, and also at the end you can provide evidence on the claimed investment gap. This has to be done at company level. We also mentioned some I3 projects are complex projects that might foresee also business cases where more than one company is involved from different territories. In this case, we would like to see also a business investment plan at business case level, where beyond the interest of an individual companies, you can explain this revenue generation model for the business case. Again, the legal structure, the investment structure, and also the claimed investment gap for the value chain investment. So the first case is the business of the individual company, how the company invests in its own interest, but this investment in its own interest is contributing to a value chain investment together with the other partners from other territories. And all those individual investments are contributing to create the competitiveness of a European value chain or to create a new value chain in a less developed region. So when we talk about business and investment plan at business case level, you will have to describe the business opportunity, so challenges, market opportunities, scalability, added value with the interregional collaboration. You will have to provide a solution, the solution that you have identified in terms of technologies, innovation maturity, time to market, why your solution is so innovative compared with others that are present already on the market analysis, the total addressable market, the competition analysis, you will have to reflect on which are the target users, the customers, which is your unique selling point. Also an analysis of the willingness to pay and the state of the demand of the market. If you have a wonderful innovation but nobody is willing to pay, maybe your project is not yet mature. The need for this solution, so the potential for market uptake. Also, you have to consider IPR issues and freedom to operate, because in those collaborative projects, the foreground is jointly owned by the consortium members. The background can belong to individual partners. So a reflection on how you will manage IPR is essential. And the legal and regulatory constraints, you might have a wonderful innovation, but maybe the regulatory framework does not allow your innovation to go to the market. The other three elements at the business case level, one is the management of the investment, the role of different partners in the governance of this joint investment, the activities and the division of work, who will do the what, the monitoring KPIs, the indicators to monitor the investment, the milestones. You might foresee an investment that is in phases, so maybe you can decide to identify some milestones, the management of the investment data, and the risk analysis and mitigation measures. All those things need to be included in the business and investment plan at business case level. The expected impact of the investment at the organization level, at socioeconomical and territorial level. So basically the impact on the regions involved. the organizational level is basically the impact on the companies involved in the investment, the turnover, the market shares that they can obtain, and the cash flow projection at company level. So cash flow projection of company's level is you can take it from the individual business plan that each company has to prepare. So here you will have to put the data at aggregate level. If a business case is implemented by 3 companies, you will have to take the 3 individual business investment plan and you will have to merge it in to provide the information on this business and investment plan at business case level. Other important aspects for I3 are the impact indicators. So we would like your business investment plan also to take into consideration some aspects related to the EU competitiveness, to innovation diffusion, to EU strategic autonomy, how your business case is contributing to those aspects, and also the impact on less developed regions or regions in transition and the contribution to the smart specialization of the regions involved. Here I prepared a sort of guidance that you can use to describe your to prepare a draft of business and investment plan. You can describe the market, the timing, the estimation of the investment at cost, the source of funding, the economic viability and the assumption that you are using for the description of this business case. And then you conclude with an analysis of the break-even and a go, no-go decision after the de-risking that you have made with the I3. So you test, you validate in a small scale, large scale, in real environment. If the demonstration and the validation is successful, you might decide to go or no go for the investment. And this has to be mentioned in the business and investment plan analysis. And then you can also say, yes, I would like to invest, I would like to go to the market, but it, depending on some enabling conditions that might be in place. We cannot go more in details because every project is different, every sector is different. So it's really up to the projects to describe the specificities of the investment cases, the sector where they are operating, etc. Coming to the business and investment plans at portfolio level, here we are talking about value chain. Portfolio overview. What are the companies involved in the investment portfolio? Which is the logic. It's a technology solution driven portfolio, a value chain driven portfolio. You explain how this investment will be implemented, if it is only private funding or if there is also public-private participation. The interregional rationale, which are the territories involved in this investment. The impact on less developed regions of this investment, and also you try to estimate the investment gap. The funding, concerning funding a financial need, you can, at the aggregate level, you can estimate how much equity you need, if you need money, lending money, or if you look for private contribution, alternative finance, or you are looking for another grant, maybe from another EU program or from national programs or regional programs funded by ERDF. We mentioned innovation readiness, which is also an important keyword that you find in our calls, in our mandatory deliverables. How can you assess innovation readiness? Innovation readiness at the end of the project. Innovation readiness is composed by 4 components. technology readiness, market readiness, business readiness, and investment readiness. Technology readiness is easy. You might be familiar with this explanation of technology readiness level from 6 to 9. Basically, technology readiness is when the technology is validated in operational environment, tier 9. And market readiness is when the product is ready for commercialization, and we will see it in specific slides a little bit more in details. Technology readiness we have explained. Market readiness, readiness for commercialization. Assess a product or a service readiness for successful entry into the market, focusing on customer needs and market conditions. Here you need to look at the customers. Is their willingness to pay? Is the market ready with all the conditions in place for the commercialization? The business readiness measure the maturity of the business idea in relation to market needs and technological readiness, helping innovators to assess their business potential for success. And investment readiness is basically the business preparation to attract and secure external investments by meeting the expectation of the investors. Here is the capacity, also the capacity to pitch. When you are looking for additional money and you are looking for investors, you should be ready to pitch and to explain in 5 minutes why the investor should invest in you, explaining that your technology is ready, the market is ready for your innovation, and that you are, as a business, you are ready. So you need to provide investor with confidence. You must be credible, and you must provide evidence for this credibility. This is the technology readiness level that I was mentioning before. When a project, given that I3 is supporting any sort of innovation, not necessarily technological innovation, it can also be organizational innovation, service innovation, etc., where maybe technology readiness level is not appropriate to measure the maturity of the investment, you can also use as a reference the time to market, the maturity of your business model and the time to market that you estimate to go to the market. Market readiness, again, the readiness for commercialization to enter the market, and you will have to make the analysis of the customer needs, and also to analyze the market conditions, the framework conditions for commercializing your innovation, and also when we talk about customer needs, also the willingness to pay from the customers. Business readiness, the maturity of the business idea, market ready, technology ready, but also other elements that are relevant for the success of your innovation. When we talk about investment readiness, we have to consider those 6 dimensions: the business viability, a sound business model, a clear market opportunity, and a competitive advantage. So you need to reflect on that. You need to demonstrate that you have a strong management team with a strong leadership, capable and experienced, with the right mix of skills to execute the business plan. The financial perspective need to be realistic, and you need to demonstrate that there is a clear understanding of financial and capitalization. The legal and structural integrity. You need to ensure the legal structure that you have chosen is appropriate, that the intellectual property is in order, as that all the aspect has been foreseen for the exploitation, and that the governance is in order. And then compelling investors material. You need to create high quality support document for investors, including a pitch deck, a business plan, and an investment memorandum, and a financial model. What I was mentioning before, when you consider to be mature, your business plan is mature in all the dimensions that we have mentioned before. A financial model is essential to discuss with potential investors. And then the market and customer understanding. You need to provide data on the market opportunity and evidence to prove the customer demand, willingness to pay again. List of remaining bottlenecks. What does it mean? So an I3 project is supposed, let's say, ideally, we would like that all the I3 projects generate business investments that reach the market. So when the innovative solution can reach the market. However, in some cases, innovative solution could not yet have reached the market at the end of the project, because I3 is about de-risking. Maybe in the framework of the project, the innovation has been de-risked at some stages, maybe from TRL 6 to 8, but maybe it's not yet ready for the market. In this case, you need to reflect and provide a list of remaining bottlenecks, explaining why your innovation has not yet reached the market. What is important is that you can show a progress in terms of technology readiness. It's not necessary, you do not necessarily have to have reached 9, but it's important that pending issues are explained. Can be issues related to the market readiness, to the business readiness, or to the investment readiness. Can be pending standardization or certification issues, lack of the right framework condition for opening the market demand. The remaining bottlenecks must be reported, and it's also used. They are also used. This report is also useful for providing feedback to policy. We are the concerning CAP2B, the capacity building strand of I3. Here are the mandatory deliverables for this strand. Action plan for the improvement of regional innovation ecosystem. Here, when we talk about action plan, we imagine the ideal situation when the consortium represents the quadruple helix and the public authorities responsible for the RDF and the smart specialization are involved in the project. In this case, the capacity building helps the ecosystem to reinforce the ecosystem internally in order to be able to connect externally and to do this learn and connect exercise to identify concrete investment. So the action plan is how my ecosystem, how the individual ecosystems that are involved in the project design a plan for investment, for supporting investments. It is the type of action plan we have in mind. Action plan that must be referred to the core action and support actions that are indicated in the call text of the CAP2B call. So you might have in this action plan actions related to reinforcing the framework condition for innovation, for example, supporting cluster policy, or aligning ERDF funding with maybe opportunities coming from centrally managed programs or roadmaps for specific sectors that are indicated in your smart specialization. those action plans are the result of a collective work of an ecosystem, of a well-performing regional innovation ecosystem. However, we are aware that this ideal situation does not exist in all regions, and not even in our projects, because the project can be implemented by actors that have the endorsement of the public authorities, but they implement the project on their own. They can be, for example, cluster organization acting on behalf of a regional innovation ecosystem. They can be regional development agencies, or they can be business associations, maybe different, or maybe RTOs, research and technology organizations. All those actors of the ecosystems might contribute to this capacity building project, but maybe they do not have the power to say, I will deliver an action plan that will be implemented by my region. However, this action plan can also be a sort of in a form of policy recommendations for your regions in the case they are not involved in the project and they do not give you the possibility to really to influence with an action plan the policy development. Concerning the report on internal reforms, it's related to the output of capacity building projects. So again, if you have public authorities responsible for ERDF and for smart specialization in your consortium, at the end of the capacity building project, they might have introduced some reforms, for example, for making the regional innovation ecosystem more performing better. For example, launching a cluster policy, or launching programs for the cooperation between universities and companies, or launching initiatives to promote the participation of companies and universities to European networks where they can build interregional investments. All those things need to be reported in this sort of report on internal reforms. Again, if depending on the configuration of your consortium, this can be feasible or not, and you should try to interpret it as a sort of contribution that you provide to your region for maybe suggestions for reforms, for something that is needed to improve those right framework conditions for innovation. The dissemination plan, you can refer to what I mentioned for the investment projects, basically disseminating and communicating the project results, but also the exploitation, basically explaining how the results will be valorized and maintained after the end of the project. The website, or also maybe how you will build on the results of the capacity building project, maybe to build another investment project. So this exploitation plan should include an outlook on the value chains identified, their segmentation, and the potential business investments identified for future I3 projects. That's all from my side. I'm open to questions. I'm sure that you will have questions, and that is not black and white, especially for capacity building, because it's very much depends on the composition of the consortium, what you can do. But I'm here to answer your questions in case something is not clear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valentina. It was very interesting indeed, a lot of information. Indeed, we do have some questions. Maybe
I will try to stop sharing.
Okay, maybe I will ask people, if they're still here, to actually raise their hands and ask their questions. And I see the first question we received was from Mattia. Mattia?
Wait, do you see me?
No,
Or
I
no?
do not see you. I see gray screen.
You see my screen, huh? Let me see. I can like stop sharing. Share content. At least you can see my face. Stop. Okay.
Yes, now I can see your face. Great. So I will now unmute.
From
Hi. Yes, you did. Yeah, I guess.
Yes, go
Thank you.
ahead.
Thank
We
you very
can hear.
much. Yes, thank you, dear Valentina, for the presentation. Just it was my brief question regarding the S3 authorities, and for sure, yes, very useful that we are in contact with them. I was just wondering, are they somehow, of course, they are informed about the projects, but if they are somehow informed about these dialogues, yeah, or let's say two-way communication that we actually should have, or yeah, perhaps would be here good. I don't know if they receive something from you, or just because it's easier to communicate with them when they know that they, yeah, so that we are not just asking them something. Just this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mattia. It should be a proactive process. So when you start a project, or in any case, even if the project is ongoing, you have never approached your regional authorities, never too late to start engaging with them. You explain your project, where you are, which are your goals, and what the project is expected to deliver. So, and then you start a dialogue, and you explain, you ask them if they would be interested in being involved in other occasions where maybe you have the annual meeting, where you have the final event, or where you organize a dissemination and exploitation workshop. So they do not have to do much, simply being there, maybe helping you to promote the event, doing a sort of opening speech, in order to legitimate also your project on the territory, to attract other actors of the ecosystem to cooperate with you, to give you the visibility, etc. I think this is very, very useful. So try to engage with them. Each partner belonging to a certain territory should approach their regional authority and explaining the project. Maybe you can tailor the communication to this specific target group. And once you have engaged with them, you can maybe organize a mirror group, or some project did that. So they identified one person that could represent the public sector from their region. And every annual meeting, they invite them. They dedicate a session of the annual meeting to report to the public authorities. And they start the dialogue between, they facilitate the dialogue between the different public authorities belonging to the consortium, to the regions involved in the consortium. So this could be a way. The other way could be if you really do not know who to approach, how to do that, maybe you can ask your project advisor to support you getting in touch with the country desk in DG Regio that are responsible for specific territories, and they are in touch with managing authorities. So they could be also a bridge for you to open this dialogue. This could be another way. So every consortium has to see a little bit the situation, and eventually ask suggestion to the project advisor on how to manage this work. Other questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we do have one more question from Bo.
Morning, afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so one of the things that we are kind of struggling with in our project, because we have 42 partners with a lot of different innovations, which are also not completely interconnected, is how are you going to use this innovation radar up accordingly, so that you can make sure that you're actually also comparing different innovations in a fair way? Because as we interpret it, you have to compare the innovations that you're trying to implement with each other as well, on how are they in terms of market readiness. But when you're, for example, doing a theoretical study, I don't know, a feasibility study, for example, and comparing that with a physical pipeline, which is going to be installed somewhere, how do you then properly compare those two kind of innovations, and also then utilizing the innovation radar?
So it depends from one business case to another. So you should always take into consideration the company level, the business case level, where more than one company can be involved, and the value chain dimension, the value chain investment level. So as an individual company, you can fill this innovation radar questionnaire and explain how the innovation that I have developed, the company has developed in how this innovation that the company has developed in the framework of the I3 project is instrumental for increasing the business opportunities for the individual company. So basically, how the individual company is planning to exploit and commercialize the result of this innovation. How this company is integrating this innovation in their own usual business. Okay, so innovation radar is individual, can be individual for individual company. Then you have a business case level. When several companies have contributed to develop certain foreground in the framework of the project, so you might have 2 or 3 companies, you need to do this exercise at business case level. All those investments implemented at the different business cases implemented in the framework of the project contribute to the creation of this portfolio dimension. There you put the aggregation. I don't know from which to which project do you belong. Is 3D printing or what? Can you tell me from which project?
Yeah, I can. I was muted and I could not unmute myself. We are from the High to Market projects, so we have innovations that are not also interconnected in the value chain, which also makes it a bit difficult, because then you have to set up, I guess, multiple business cases in that case, right? Because
exactly.
they are not all connected, so you need to have then multiple business cases, I assume.
Exactly, multiple business cases, and then you can describe how those business cases are interconnected to the value chain, are linked to the value chain, are contributing to the competitiveness of the value chain. You can find, of course, it depends on the architecture of the project. There is no one model that can fit all, but you need to think to those 3 dimensions: company level, business case level, value chain level. How the different business investment plans can explain the impact on the value chain investments. Because I3 is about interregional, how different companies from different regions are cooperating together to make value chains more competitive. So also this logic need to be reflected in the final deliverables and in this deliverable that is related to the portfolio, the description of the portfolio. Other questions?
Yes, we have a hand raised by Antonia. Go ahead, Antonia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the great presentation, first of all. I have 2 questions, so I hope you can help me. I'm calling from Croatia, and we are planning to apply to the capacity building call. And I have a question regarding the tailored policy measures output. So we are planning to have our companies from the less developed regions to actively cooperate with the test bed, with a company that offers virtual test beds in a more developed region. But we now have an issue regarding the policy measures that would define how regions in Croatia can legally finance and access those international research and innovation infrastructures. So can that one of the outputs regarding policy measures be some kind of a rule book or a regulatory framework or maybe an operational protocol rather than just a general policy paper?
Yes, of course, very good.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a very concrete.
Sorry, is my connection?
It seems we have some connection issues on Valentina's side. Valentina, can you hear us? Okay, maybe any of the colleagues can support the answer, or we wait for Valentina to come back.
Connection.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, could you please repeat the question? I will try to answer it in between.
Yes, no problem. So just for the context, we plan to have our companies from less developed regions to actively cooperate with a company that offers virtual test beds in a more developed region. So we are wondering how should the output regarding policy measures look like? Should it just be a general policy paper? Should it be some kind of a regulatory framework, maybe more, maybe a document that is more on a national regulatory level? What would you like to see us accomplish regarding the policy measures?
Sorry, your investment project or your capacity building project?
A capacity building project.
Yes. So basically on the policy level, as Valentina mentioned, first you try to see what kind of results, what kind of changes you did on the organization level. For example, in each partner organization, in each region, and then also what kind of policy recommendations you did on in the region. For example, this is like when you have in mind, for example, what kind of policy recommendations would you recommend to your managing authority or to your regional government? What kind of actions they need to introduce in order to address this issue that you are implementing in your project? For example, in terms of test beds, for example, is it cooperation between the, I don't know, SMEs and universities, or SMEs or technology transfer organizations or different hubs? How would you like, for example, to organize better the different stakeholders in the regional innovation ecosystem in every region? What kind of policy measures, for example, are needed in order to support better SMEs? To get in contact better with the with the research organizations in the same regions or in a different region. But basically, yeah, the end result should be what kind of policy measures would you recommend, you know, or you introduced even within the duration of the project to kind of address this. Yeah. So what is the contribution of your project to the to solving, let's say, this issue that you are addressing on the regional level?
Okay, great. I understand. Thank you very much.
Yes. And on the level of the organization, for example, is like what kind what kind of measures you introduce, for example, if you are a chamber of commerce and industry, for example, to kind of provide better services for your members, or to kind of get better in the, like, how did you organize within the organization?
Okay.
I hope it's okay. Yeah.
Yes, thanks. And one more question. The capacity building talks a lot about mapping the pipeline and the general ecosystem and the value chains. But unfortunately, we think our government and our ministries already did that. So we are kind of wondering if we could maybe focus maybe on a deep dive, or to do some kind of analysis of the, I don't know, investment gap analysis, to identify why specific small and medium enterprises are not yet investing. Or maybe if we can, for like a third option would be if we can assess maybe the technological maturity and investment potential of the specific companies. Would that be something okay with this capacity building call? So just that we do not do something that it's already have been done on a national
Yes. Okay, I see that Valentina is
Yes, Valentina is
joined.
back indeed.
Valentina, would you like to answer that? I don't know if
Sorry,
you heard.
I was frozen. I don't know. Maybe accident. So now I'm connected from my telephone because I had an issue with my internet connection. So can you please repeat shortly the question?
Okay, it's regarding the mapping the ecosystem and the capacity building call. Unfortunately, our government and the other ministries have already done some kind of mapping of the ecosystem, and I think that in the call it specifically says that we should not do something that's already been done. So I was wondering. We have maybe 3 options that we could do. Maybe if we can continue the mapping to do some kind of a deep dive on the ecosystem, or maybe do some kind of a different kind of analysis, maybe investment gap analysis. And for the third option, we were wondering if we can do the assessment of the technical readiness level for specific enterprises in our region and their investment potential.
In the capacity building project, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you do not have to replicate what already exists. You need to build on what it has been done, especially if it has been done by the ARDF or Smart Specialization competent bodies. You take those information and you try to build on that.
Okay.
Of course, if you realize that this mapping of the ecosystem is not complete, you can of course integrate going to a higher level of granularity in the analysis of the smart specialization priorities and the value chains that are connected to these smart specialization priorities. Maybe and placing the different actors of the ecosystems that have an innovation potential in those segments of the value chain.
Okay.
This can be an added value because it's something that maybe the public sector is not able to do. And the business associations or chambers of commerce or other actors that are active in the innovation sector can help the regional authorities to do this segmentation. So very good if you build on that, but not to duplicate, just building on that, maybe going to a higher level of granularity. And don't forget that at the end of the capacity building project, you are supposed to have identified a number of companies ready to be involved in interregional innovation investments together with other companies from other ecosystems in a framework of an investment portfolio that is coherent with a certain value chain. So a capacity building project can address one specific value chain or more, depending on your ambition, and also in different numbers of companies that are can be placed in the different segments of the value chains.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome. Other questions?
I invite participants to raise their hands if they would like to ask questions.
I think that you can also read the questions that are on the chat. I cannot read them anymore because I'm participating online as a normal participant, but I think there were some questions on the chat.
Yes, so you indeed answered them. This is why I asked earlier people to raise their hands. So I think we are caught up with chat up to this point. We do have 8 more minutes. So I really encourage people to use this opportunity while we have Valentina, while we have Maya and the other colleagues from ISMEA here with us, to ask any questions they would like to know about the deliverables. Even if you don't have the project yet, if you're thinking about having a project, what is it that keeps you up at night before deliverable submission deadlines?
Hello, Justina. Sorry, it's Maya. While we are waiting maybe for additional questions, I think Eric Koch, our head of sector at ISMEA, would like to add something about the document on questions and answers that might be also very useful.
Of course.
Thank you. And actually, I was hesitating. I wanted first, of course, the coordinators to and beneficiaries to ask their questions, and didn't want to intervene. But of course now, but as an icebreaker, I would like to tell all the attendees and that are beneficiaries and coordinators that we are, and you might have heard it when you actually attended the I3 forum in September or the newcomers coordinators meeting in November, that we are planning to do a Q&A document, I3 instrument, which I would call like something like a what you ever have wanted to know about the I3 instrument document. So it's not a typical Q&A document that you know from polls that where we apply and you ask your questions. It's more complete because it includes all kind of questions that are relevant for you as implementing partners and implementing projects, and we're planning to be ready with that in the first quarter, hopefully January, February 2026 as a first version, and then depending on your feedback directly from the projects, we will adapt this document. And we think it's very useful, and it's really based on your input and on the many questions we have received over so many months and almost years now for some projects. Looking forward to that, and it will also include, of course, the findings of today. We had already a draft version, thanks to Valentina for a great presentation, by the way, because I think in the draft version she already summarized this for some of the mandatory deliverables. We'll add the others that are yet missing, but based on the discussions today, we will be able to do that, and then we'll be ready for this first version of this document for the January, February. Thank you, Justina. That was my statement.
Thank you so much, Eric. Okay, last chance. I still see Antonia's hand raised, so I'm not sure if you have another question or is it just from the previous? Okay, it was from the previous. If we have no more questions during the last few minutes, I would like to then take a moment to thank Valentina for coming here and giving this really informative summary. So thank you so much. Both recording and the materials will be available to you on the I3 Support Facility website in a couple of days. My colleagues can send the link to the website to the chat again for those who maybe haven't checked it out yet. We really encourage you to get to go there to see our other virtual events. We would like to see you also next week in our next matchmaking event. And yes, thank you so much, everyone. Stay tuned. We have more exciting things to come this year and also in 2026 for the I3 support facility. And we have a lot of news upcoming for you. Thank you, Valentina. Thank you all, and we see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.